When you show up at an airport, you really only see like 3 things: smiling flight attendants, pilots in their fancy uniforms, and one very, very tired woman at the check-in desk. But right behind them, there's this whole hidden microcity with billions of dollars flowing through it, run by people with some of the strangest job descriptions on the planet. Today we're breaking the entire airport ecosystem wide open, and I promise you, by the end of this video, at least one of these jobs is going to make you go, okay, wait, I actually want to do that. Alright, let's jump into our first absolutely unhinged profession, the person whose entire job is terrorizing local pigeons with what is basically a trained dragon. Let's go. Airport Falconer. Okay, so let's kick things off with a job that honestly sounds like someone made it up after 3 beers. Major airports around the world, and we're talking Heathrow, JFK, Vancouver, Schiphol, they actually hire professional falconers, like real people with real trained hawks and falcons strapped to their arm. And their whole job is basically just fly these birds around the runway so every pigeon and goose in the area first sees a predator and nopes out immediately. And look, this isn't some cute little PR thing. Bird strikes are genuinely one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a plane. Like 97% of all wildlife collisions with aircraft, that's birds. You probably remember 2009. A flock of Canada geese took out both engines on a plane leaving LaGuardia, and Captain Sully had to ditch the whole thing in the Hudson River. That wasn't a freak accident. That's just what happens when bird control drops the ball. So airports fight nature with nature. And I mean literally. Picture this, it's like 5:30 in the morning, still dark out, and some dude in a high-vis vest is standing at the edge of a runway, releasing a Harris's hawk into the cold air. The hawk circles. Every starling within half a mile just panics and bounces. Not a single piece of technology involved. Just 40 million years of pure I-will-eat-you energy doing what lasers, scarecrows, and a literal robot hawk have all failed to do. Oh, and here's a fun one. Amsterdam Schiphol actually tried using a robotic hawk. It crashed. Zurich was like, you know what, forget the birds, and just hired hunters with shotguns. But most airports that actually care about this keep coming back to the same answer. Just get a real falcon and a real falconer. Simple as that. Now money-wise, if you're working for a wildlife management company, you're pulling somewhere around $40,000 to $65,000 a year. Honestly, not bad for a job where your coworker has talons. But some falconers go solo, start their own abatement businesses, and charge airports up to $1,200 a day. Which, yeah, that's deep into 6-figure territory. The catch, though, you need a falconry permit, and getting one means a minimum 2-year apprenticeship under a master falconer before you're even allowed to fly a bird on your own. Most airport gigs want a wildlife biology degree on top of that, but real talk, those 2 years of apprenticeship are the actual bottleneck. Nobody's handing you a raptor on day 1. Aircraft marshaller. Okay, forget falcons, let's talk about the person standing on the tarmac waving 2 glowing sticks like they're conducting the world's loudest orchestra. That's an aircraft marshaller, and their job is basically park airplanes, which sounds simple until you realize you're guiding an 80-ton machine into a spot with like 3 feet of clearance on each side. Using nothing but hand signals and vibes, one wrong gesture and a wingtip goes straight into a building, or another plane, or you. And here's what makes it wild. The pilot can barely see them. You're this tiny little person standing in front of a 737. And the pilot is looking down at you from like 20 feet up through a windshield the size of a bathtub. So every single movement has to be exaggerated, precise, and completely standardized. There's an actual international code for these hand signals. Same gestures whether you're at LAX, Dubai, or some tiny airstrip in New Zealand. It's honestly the closest thing to a real-life QuickTime event. You know those moments in video games where you have to hit the right button at exactly the right time or everything explodes? That's basically this job, except the controller is 2 orange wands and the explosion is very, very real. Money-wise, you're looking at around $30,000 to $50,000 depending on the airport. And getting in is actually pretty straightforward. No degree needed, just a driver's license, a background check, and you apply directly through ground handling companies. Most people start as general ramp agents and move into marshalling after a few months of training. Lavatory service technician. Yeah, that guy. Alright, so somebody's got to do it. Every time a plane lands, someone has to hook up a big hose to the bottom of the aircraft and pump out everything that went down those tiny airplane toilets during the flight. That someone is the lavatory service technician. Or as everyone in the industry calls them, the lav guy. And look, I promised I'd be honest about the gross parts, so here it is. Sometimes the hose connections freeze in winter, and when they freeze, you gotta thaw them out. You are literally heating up frozen human waste at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. Sometimes the tubes droop and the flow stops, and you have to lift them by hand. while stuff is still flowing. It's like being a plumber, except your office is outdoors. It's negative 10 degrees. Your clients are Boeing 747s, and nobody, Vosnobehimu is thanking you for your service. But real talk? These jobs are everywhere. They're always hiring, and you can walk in with zero experience. You're looking at around $30,000 to $45,000 a year, which honestly isn't terrible for something that requires no degree, no certifications, nothing. Just a strong stomach and the ability to not think too hard about what you're doing. ARFF Fueler. Okay, now let's go from the grossest job to one of the most quietly terrifying. An aircraft fueler pumps jet fuel into airplanes. Sounds boring, right? Until you realize you're pumping like 50,000 pounds of highly flammable kerosene into a metal tube full of electronics, and you've got maybe 30 minutes to do it before the whole flight schedule falls apart. You're driving a fuel truck that's worth more than most people's houses, navigating around active taxiways where planes are moving, other trucks are moving, and one spark, literally one spark, could turn the whole thing into a fireball. There's a reason these trucks have like 17 different grounding procedures. Static electricity is not your friend when you're sitting on top of 10,000 gallons of jet fuel. Think of it like this. You may imagine working at a gas station, but the cars are the size of apartment buildings. They never turn off their engines, and if you spill anything, you might make the national news. The pay is around $35,000 to $55,000 depending on where you are, and you need a commercial driver's license, a CDL, to operate the truck. But beyond that, no degree, no fancy certifications. A lot of fuelers start straight out of high school. Load planner. This one's going to blow some minds. Before every single flight, someone has to calculate exactly how much the airplane weighs and where that weight is sitting. Every passenger, every suitcase, every piece of cargo, the fuel, the water, the catering carts, all of it has to be distributed so the plane's center of gravity is in exactly the right spot. If it's off, the plane doesn't fly right. If it's way off, the plane doesn't fly at all. It's basically Tetris, except every block weighs a different amount. The board is three-dimensional, and if you lose the game, 200 people have a really bad day. Load planners, sometimes called loadmasters on cargo flights, sit at a desk running calculations and coordinating with the ground crew in real time right up until the doors close. And they have to be fast, because every minute a plane sits at the gate costs the airline money. This one pays pretty well, actually. Anywhere from $50,000 on the low end to over $100,000 for experienced cargo loadmasters. Especially military-trained ones. You can get in through airline ground operations with no degree, but the math has to be tight. Some people come in from military transport backgrounds where they literally learned to load tanks onto C-130S, which, yeah, that'll do it. FOD Walker. So right after that Concorde crash, the whole industry went into overdrive on something called FOD, foreign object debris. Basically anything that's on a runway that shouldn't be. Screws, bolts, rocks, chunks of pavement, bits of wire, luggage hardware, any of it can destroy a tire or get sucked into an engine. And the way they deal with it? They literally line people up shoulder to shoulder and walk them slowly down the entire runway, eyes on the ground, picking stuff up by hand, every single day, at every major airport. It's called a FOD walk, and it looks like the world's most boring parade. Craft De-Icer. Alright, if you live somewhere where it actually gets cold, this one's for you. When it snows or when ice builds up on a plane, you can't just take off. Ice changes the shape of the wings, messes with the aerodynamics, and makes the plane way heavier than it should be. So before departure, a de-icing crew has to spray the entire aircraft with a heated glycol mixture. Think of it like a hot orange shower for a plane. The de-icer sits in a cherry picker type platform, about 40 feet in the air, in the middle of a blizzard, spraying this stuff methodically from nose to tail. And here's the kicker, the de-icing fluid only works for a limited time. Depending on the weather, you might have a window of like 15 to 45 minutes before the ice starts forming again. If the plane doesn't take off in that window, you gotta do the whole thing over. Airline just ate another $10,000 in fluid costs. Your supervisor is not happy. It's like pressure washing a building, except the building costs $300 million. It's -20 outside, and the clock is literally always ticking. This is mostly a seasonal gig, winter only, paying around $35,000 to $55,000. You need a CDL and some specialized training, but companies are always desperate for de-icers when November hits. Like always. ARFF Mechanic. Okay, now we're getting into serious territory. An A&P mechanic, and that stands for airframe and power plant, is the person who inspects, repairs, and maintains everything on an aircraft. Engines, landing gear, hydraulics, electrical systems, the works. And here's the part that hits different. Every single repair they do, they have to sign off on personally. Their name, their license number on the paperwork. If that plane crashes and it turns out the repair was bad, that signature leads right back to them. Think about that for a second. A car mechanic forgets to tighten a bolt, your check engine light comes on. An aircraft mechanic forgets to tighten a bolt, it's on CNN. And the industry is screaming for these people right now. Boeing estimates that the world needs 610,000 new aviation maintenance technicians by 2034. Corinne, that's a massive shortage, which means the pay keeps climbing. Median is around $79,000, but experienced mechanics at major airlines pull $100,000 to $120,000 with overtime and shift differentials. No 4-year degree needed either. You go through an FAA certified program that takes about 16 to 24 months, pass your written, oral, and practical exams, and you're in. It's one of the best paying skilled trades out there that most people have literally never heard of. ARFF Firefighter. So every airport with commercial flights is required by law to have its own dedicated fire department, not the regular city fire department, a separate one, right there on the airfield, with specialized trucks and specialized crews trained specifically for aircraft emergencies. These are ARFF firefighters, aircraft rescue and firefighting, and their daily routine is honestly kind of hilarious. They train, they work out, they inspect their equipment, they do drills, they play cards, they wait, and wait, and wait, because an aircraft fire at their airport might happen once a year, or once a decade, or never. But when it does, they have exactly 3 minutes to reach any point on the airfield with trucks that can dump 6,000 liters of foam per minute. 3 minutes. That's the FAA requirement. Not 4, not 5, 3. And their trucks are basically tanks crossed with fire engines, massive armored vehicles designed to drive straight through burning jet fuel. It's like being a goalie in hockey. 90% of the time you're just standing there, and then suddenly everything is coming at you at once, and you have about 2 seconds to react. The pay ranges from around $48,000 to $75,000, with some senior guys at busy airports pushing into the 90s. You need firefighter certification, ARFF, specific training, and usually an EMT license too. Most guys come from regular fire departments and transfer in, and if you ask them what the hardest part of the job is, most of them will say the same things. It's not the fires, it's the waiting. AIR traffic controller. All right, boss level. Every single aircraft moving through an airport, taxiing, taking off, landing, holding, going around, is being tracked and directed by one person staring at a radar screen and talking very fast into a microphone. That's the air traffic controller. And their job is, put simply, to make sure no two planes ever occupy the same piece of sky at the same time. And I know that sounds manageable until you realize that at a busy airport like Atlanta or Dubai, they're handling over 2,500 flights a day. That's roughly one takeoff or landing every 30 seconds, and every single one of those has to be sequenced, separated, and timed with zero room for error. Because there's no undo button. There's no, oops, let me try that again. If two planes get too close, people can die. It's that simple. The stress is unreal. Controllers work in dark rooms with multiple screens, communicating in a clipped coded language that sounds like English ran through a blender. They rotate positions every couple of hours because the mental fatigue is so intense that staying on the scope too long literally degrades your performance. And there's a reason the FAA forces mandatory retirement at age 56. This job burns people out like almost nothing else. But the money, oh, the money. Median salary for air traffic controllers in the US is around $137,000. Senior controllers at major facilities clear $200,000. In places like Dubai and Zurich, the packages are even bigger. It's one of the highest paying careers you can get without a traditional 4-year degree. So yeah, that's an airport. A Falcon handler, a guy heating up frozen sewage at 4 a.m., a mechanic whose signature is literally a promise you'll land safely, and a controller playing the highest stakes puzzle game ever invented, all within the same square mile. Tell me in the comments which one surprised you the most, and if you like this one, I've got another lineup ready for you right here on screen. Click it now before somebody else finds out about these gigs and takes your spot.